It is the 19th of October, 2021. Welcome to the Christian History Almanac, brought to you by 1517 at 1517.org. I'm Dan Van Voris. Today is the anniversary of the death of Jonathan Swift in 1745. You've probably heard of Swift, a famous Anglo-Irish author who wrote Gulliver's Travels, among other satires and political treatises. I'll admit I myself only pretended to read A Modest Proposal when it was assigned to me in junior high, and I only knew of the Mickey Mouse cartoon version of Gulliver's Travels and thought it was just a story about a big guy living on an island with small people. Since then, Jonathan Swift has become one of my favorite Enlightenment-era authors, thinkers, and Christians. But it is his faith that is so often overlooked, despite being an ordained Anglican priest and the dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral. Today on the show, on the anniversary of his death, let me present you with just a little thumbnail sketch of the faith of Ireland's greatest satirist, Jonathan Swift. And we have to start there because Swift was Anglo-Irish. He was born to English parents in Ireland, but he would nonetheless gladly obscure the answers to his origins. And he seemed to delight in taking on personas in his work. His personal life is also somewhat obscured by his own possible mental illness, and his relationships to certain women seem secretive and complicated. It seems that he has something in common with Søren Kierkegaard. His life has to be understood in the context of the restoration of the British monarchy in 1660 and the Glorious Revolution of 1688. We should keep this in mind with his constant moving between Ireland and England on account of the political and religious disturbances. And at this time, you had three main branches of Christianity in the British Isles. You had the Anglican Church, you had the Catholic Church, and then you had those dissenting or nonconformist Protestant groups. It was in this context that Swift published his first major work, although he did it anonymously. It was called A Tale of the Tub, and it is a purposefully perplexing read. There are digressions and tangents, and while the whole thing is worth working through, the actual tale of the tub in the book tells us what we need to know about Swift's view of the state of the church. The tale is one of three brothers whose father dies and leaves them his will and each a coat. The brothers are Peter, Martin, and Jack. Peter represents the Catholic Church, while Jack represents the dissenters, and Martin represents the Anglican Church. You can see that here. Peter represents Saint Peter, who the Catholics call the first bishop of Rome or the first pope. Jack is a common nickname for John, who would be referring to John Calvin, and he would be representative of the dissenters. And then, interestingly, Martin would be Martin Luther, but he would represent the Anglican Church, which Swift was a member of and saw as the moderating group. The will tells the sons that they are not to do anything to their coats, but when a fashion trend sweeps in, Peter starts adorning his jacket with non-will approved baubles, and soon Jack and Martin start to do the same, although Jack is kind of wild and Martin has a little bit of caution. Interestingly, the book was blasted for being anti-Christian. Like his later misunderstood satire, A Modest Proposal, this came from his desire to save the church from absurdity and pain. A Modest Proposal was written out of a disgust for the English Christians' contempt for the suffering of their Irish brothers and sisters. A Tale of the Tub was written by a committed Anglican priest who sought to engage in questions of theology and tradition and history. Other sections in the Tale of the Tub, and certainly large portions of his later Gulliver's Travels, would deal with the paradox of an enlightened society dealing with its own sin and blindness. And so, once again, like Kierkegaard, Swift wrote in pseudonyms and as a variety of different narrators. He lived between a contempt for the folly of society, but with a deep love for his neighbors suffering under that folly. He wrote, quote, "I have ever hated all nations, professions, and communities, and all my love is toward individuals. I hate and detest that animal called man, although I heartily love John, Peter, Thomas, and so forth. This is the system upon which I have governed myself many years." Swift was unwell during the last years of his life, and he died on this the 19th of October in 1745. His tombstone carries the epitaph he composed for himself. It includes the line, "Here lies Jonathan Swift," where savage indignation can no longer tear his heart. Born in 1667, Jonathan Swift was 77 years old. The last word for today comes from the book of Job. We read, "Oh, that my words were written down. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and with lead they were engraved on a rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold and not another. My heart faints within me." This has been the Christian History Almanac for the 19th of October, 2021, brought to you by 1517 at 1517.org. This show is produced by a man of Brobdingnagian stature. He is Christopher Gillespie. The show is written and read by a real Yahoo. I'm Dan Van Voris. You can catch us here every day. And remember that the rumors of grace, forgiveness, and the redemption of all things are true. Everything is going to be okay.